So I bought another spot welder. Now the reason I bought this spot welder is that this was in a video by GreatScott, and GreatScott is a channel with millions of viewers and subscribers. And this was on his hidden secrets of AliExpress video. And he recommended this spot welder. And this is one of those spot welders where it has a lithium ion pouch inside of a plastic box and a couple leads coming out of it. And it's self-contained, and the whole thing was only about $28 shipped. So if this spot welder is any good, this would be great because it's significantly cheaper than buying the BIFRC spot welding PCB and a separate LIPO. This is all self-contained. So let's open the box. And then I'll throw it on the charger and we'll do some testing with it. As soon as I figure out how to open the box. Oh well, we'll rip it. Something stuck in the bottom here. Oh, just more heat shrink. Okay, interesting. It's like so it charges with a barrel connection off a USB, so that's interesting. There is some heat shrink, presumably to put on the needles. There's some included nickel that is almost certainly garbage, and I wouldn't use it. And here is the spot welder. I could tell in the GreatScott video that it looked kind of cheap. That's why I wanted to buy it, to see if it's any good, because it kind of looked cheap in the video, and it is cheap. It's just a big old plastic box, LIPO inside, barrel jack, some sort of power button, and the needles. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is any good. I'm tempted to do a quick teardown just to see what it looks like on the inside there. Oh. There is not much to this. Interestingly enough, this looks like one of those spot welding PCBs that I did a video series on that was no good. So it'll be interesting to see if this thing's any good, because it's a kind of a, it is the LIPO is thick. It's small, but it is thick. It's got some, the LIPO has girth to it. So this will be interesting. All right, let me put it back together here carefully without pinching the wires. All right, so I will put this back together and I will throw this on the charger, and we will see if it's any good in a second. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, I'm done charging this this pack here. Let me throw the heat shrink on the needles here. Okay, done. Now, normally I didn't want to buy this kind of spot welder because you couldn't change the needles. If you look at some of the fancy BIFRC, the $50 ones, the cable actually has a proprietary connector and it plugs into the box. But since this is actually just a regular PCB under here and this black box just has the leads coming out, you should be able to solder on new leads if you wanted to. So changing the leads in the future shouldn't be a problem. So let's test this thing out. So the instructions are here. Press and hold the switch for 3 seconds and a buzzer will sound. Press the switch briefly and the buzzer will sound, switching gears. 1 to 6. It's a 1 to 6 power strength, with 1 gear being the lowest and 6 being the largest. Observe the circular lamp, which flashes several times to represent the gear. Okay, so let's turn this on. Or if I can even get it to turn on. Okay, it's on. And okay, what mode is it in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's in mode 5. According to this, I think it's in mode 5. Alright, well let's see what a mode 5 looks like. Let's do a spot weld. This is 0.15, fairly thick nickel. Let me cut a shorter piece here. Alright, let's see what our first spot welds look like over here. So it says it beeps when you do this. Not bad. Not bad. So let's bring that up so you can see. It's not bad spot welds. It's okay, but it wouldn't do thicker than 0.15. I can tell with that kind of spot weld, we're kind of near the max here. Let's see if we can turn this up to all the way here. So we're supposed to hold this in here. Two, 3, 4, 5. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think we're on the highest level now. So a single push adds 1 gear to it. So this is a higher level now. About the same penetration. Let's try to peel that off. Close to full penetration. Maybe not the whole way. So let's compare it to the my old trusty BIFRC. This is my original BIFRC from my first video over 2 years ago. And this thing just refuses to die. So we are in, we're in red mode. Okay, so we're only going to go to about half power on this, and we'll compare the spot welds. Oh, well, I kind of messed up the first one, but second one, it is deeper than the GreatScott welder over here. Let's do this again on a battery with an existing weld to compare. Okay, so that big double weld is the BIFRC at halfway, and those little welds around it are the GreatScott spot welder at near full power. So I really don't think there's a comparison here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to test how it spot welding nickel onto nickel is quite a challenge. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is on this side, I'm going to use the GreatScott spot welder on this side, and I'll use the BIFRC on this side. Yeah, look. It didn't even penetrate. The GreatScott spot welder, honestly, kind of garbage, if I'm being honest. Let's compare it to the BIFRC. Better, for sure. It definitely could use more penetration, and what I can do is I can turn, since we're only at about halfway, I can turn up the BIFRC. So now that's the BIFRC turned up. Still not all the way, but higher. Oh yeah, and it just rips the GreatScott weld right off the battery before it breaks the nickel on nickel. Oh yeah, look, the nickel on nickel held and it tore the entire thing off the battery. So, unfortunately, I don't think this is even in the same league as the BIFRC. And if you look inside, when we looked earlier, it's actually using the PCB from one of the old spot welders I tested in my 4-part series that came in like last place just about. So it does have a LIPO and it does have a spot welding, a PCB there, but I just don't think it's practical for any sort of thickness in metal. If you were doing maybe 0.12 or smaller, I think you could get away with this, although I'm still not sure about the nickel on nickel spot welds. But see, this is 0.12. It really was not much of an effort. Let's compare that to the BIFRC. Permanently there. Yeah, unfortunately, this is not going to get a recommendation from me. It's a shame. For $28, it would be a good solution, but unfortunately, I think this continues to absolutely dominate. These are about $20 and the batteries are about $30. So you're, maybe 25. So you're going to have to spend 45 to get into a decent spot welder. The BIFRC still only has one downside. That is that the needles get hot after multiple welds. So you do a row of batteries and you actually need to wait a minute or two and let it cool down. That's why I have heat sinks on the MOSFETs to help dissipate some heat, just because this does get hot. It's delivering so much current that it gets hot. But other than that, what an amazing spot welder. And like I said, over 2 years I've had it and dozens of batteries I've built, and it still keeps being my #1 spot welder.